think of this story every October, and every time the wind just grows really chill. This is the story of Skeleton Woman from Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And I hope you like it as much as I do. She had done something of which her father disapproved, although no one any longer remembered what it was. But her father had dragged her to the cliffs and thrown her over and into the sea. There, the fish ate her flesh away and plucked out her eyes, and as she lay under the sea, her skeleton turned over and over in the currents. One day, a fisherman came fishing. Well, in truth, many came to this bay once, but this fisherman had drifted far from his home place, and did not know that the local fishermen stayed away, saying this inlet was haunted. The fisherman's hook drifted down through the water and caught, of all places, in the bones of Skeleton Woman's ribcage. The fisherman thought, "Oh, now I've got a really big one. Now I really have one." In his mind, he was thinking of how many people this great fish would feed, how long it would last, how long he might be free from the chore of hunting. And as he struggled with this great weight on the end of his hook, the sea was stirred to a thrashing froth, and his kayak bucked and shook. For she who was beneath struggled to disentangle herself, and the more she struggled, the more she tangled up in the line. No matter what she did, she was inexorably dragged upward, tugged by the bones of her own ribs. The hunter had turned to scoop up his net, so he did not see her bald head rise above the waves. He did not see the little coral creatures glinting in the orbs of her skull. He did not see the crustaceans on her old ivory teeth. When he turned back with his net, her entire body, such as it was, had come to the surface and was hanging from the tip of his kayak by her long front teeth. "Ah!" cried the man, and his heart fell into his knees. His eyes hid in terror on the back of his head, and his ears blazed bright red. "Ah!" he screamed, and knocked her off the prow with his oar, and began paddling like a demon toward the shoreline. And not realizing she was tangled in his line, he was frightened all the more, for she appeared to stand up on her toes while chasing him all the way to the shore. No matter which way he zigged his kayak, she stayed right behind, and her breath rolled over the water in clouds of steam, and her arms flailed out as though to snatch him down to the depths. "Ah!" he wailed as he ran aground. In one leap, he was out of his kayak, clutching his fishing stick and running, and the coral-white corpse of Skeleton Woman still snagged in the fishing line, bumpity-bumped behind right after him. Over the rocks he ran, and she followed. Over the frozen tundra he ran, and she kept right up. Over the meat laid out to dry he ran, cracking it to pieces as his mucklucks bore down. Throughout it all, she kept right up. In fact, grabbed some of the frozen fish as she was dragged behind. This she began to eat, for she had not gorged in a long, long time. Finally, the man reached his snow house and dove right into the tunnel, and on hands and knees scrabbled his way into the interior. Panting and sobbing, he lay there in the dark, his heart a drum, a mighty drum. Safe at last. Oh, so safe. Yes, safe. Thank the gods. Raven, yes. Thank Raven, yes. And all-bountiful Sedna, safe at last. Imagine when he lit his whale oil lamp. There it, lay in a tumble upon his snow floor. One heel over her shoulder, one knee inside her ribcage, one foot over her elbow. He could not say later what it was. Perhaps the firelight softened her features, or the fact that he was a lonely man. But a feeling of some kindness came into his breathing, and slowly he reached out his grimy hands, and using words like mother to child, began to untangle her from the fishing line. "Oh, nah. First he untangled the toes, then the ankles. "Oh, nah. On and on he worked into the night, until dressing her in furs to keep her warm, skeleton woman's bones were all in the order a human's should be. He felt into his leather cuffs for his flint and used some of his hair to light a little more fire. He gazed at her from time to time as he oiled the precious wood of his fishing stick and rewound the gut line. And she in the furs uttered not a word. She did not dare, lest this hunter take her out and throw her down to the rocks and break her bones to pieces entirely. The man became drowsy, slid under his sleeping skins, and soon was dreaming. And sometimes, as humans sleep, a tear escapes from the dreamer's eye. We never know what sort of dream causes this, but we know it is either a dream of sadness or longing, and this is what happened to the man. The skeleton woman saw the tear glisten in the firelight, and she became suddenly so thirsty. She tinkled and clanked and crawled over to the sleeping man and put her mouth to his ear. The single tear was like a river, and she drank and drank and drank until her many years-long thirst was slaked. While lying beside him, she reached inside the sleeping man and took out his heart, the mighty drum. She sat up and banged on both sides of it. Bum, 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 bum. As she drummed, she began to sing out, "Flesh, flesh, 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 flesh." And the more she sang, the more her body filled out with flesh. She sang for hair and good eyes and nice fat hands. She sang the divide between her legs and breasts long enough to rot for warmth and all the things a woman needs. And when she was all done, she also sang the sleeping man's clothes off and crept into his bed with him, skin against skin. She returned the great drum, his heart, to his body, and that is how they awakened, wrapped one around the other, tangled from their night. In another way now, a lasting good way. The people who cannot remember how she came to her first ill fortune say she and the fishermen went away and were consistently well fed by the creatures she had known in her life underwater. The people say that it is true, and that is all they know. The author goes on to talk about how this story relates to the psyche and how we can come to better understand ourselves through stories. This book is full of beautiful stories. It is pithy. It requires some journaling and some thought to read it, but it is one of my very, very favorites. Thank you for joining me for this story time, and I hope you'll join us by the fire next time too.